What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Power Ranking Guys. We are so excited to be back, ranking everything and anything about Survivor Michigan. As always, I'm Paul. I'm here with Joe.
Hey, everybody.
And we are super excited to be back.
Absolutely. I feel like it's been a minute, and I feel like I was hoping we'd be about 6 million steps ahead of where we were the last time we did this, but this season has been so crazy. I don't know if I could say that.
I don't feel hardly any steps ahead at all. It's just been so up and down. There's been so many twists and turns, so many unexpected sort of happenings, and so many unexpected boots. One of our favorite people, Jesse, who we
I
were
know.
so high on last time we were here, is gone without a trace now.
Yeah, not even on the jury.
I know, not even on the jury. That's so brutal. And and Ben's gone. I had to check my emails to make sure there wasn't anything incriminating in there.
I was worried too when he said that. I was like, "Oh gosh, did he send something to me? Did he send something to the fans?"
I know, it's a pandemic. I'm not checking my email as often. I was very worried, but thankfully Ben did not send out any of the incriminating texts between he and I. So I'm really grateful about that. Thank you, Ben, if you're listening to this.
That's great.
No. So we are just excited to kind of hop back into this. We are down to the final 8.
That is crazy. I was not expecting a demerge, but leave it up to, the Mazed and Confused season to bring that in. I thought that was a really... I should have been expecting something, but I guess I was just like ready to just get into the episode, and I was like, oh man, this is a crazy twist. And I feel like the way that it worked out too, where they could kind of pick their tribes and strategize with that, I thought that was really cool. It wasn't, like a typical, what was it, like in Ghost Island, where it was just like they just split them randomly. So I thought that added an extra layer to it. So I thought the way that they did it was smart. Although I can't say I'm super happy about who went home, but we can obviously get into all that.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I think it was very different than, like you said, Ghost Island or Fiji, where it was kind of like somebody could get swapped screwed. It was like, no, this was more like kind of you chose your own destiny, and the fact that they immediately dropped their ball or egg or whatever it was and ran over to claim their side, I thought was really great moment of strategy. Just a really, really clever way to play the challenge.
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that I guess you couldn't plan for was, and I don't remember if this was mentioned, but I think as soon as it was like Emily P, well, maybe Will, I guess it was like a couple others, but anyway, as soon as they dropped, I think it was like Dylan and Cassie dropped. I don't know if Dylan and Cassie had that same plan, or because they were kind of like right behind them. So I don't know if because they saw them all running that they did it too. So that's obviously something you can't, you can plan with who you want to plan with, but then you can't control any of the other players that aren't on your plan. So I thought that added an extra element. And then I think the big moment, or one of the big moments, was Devin coming in and swooping in and taking that last buff. I think it was on the pink. Were they the orange or the pink? I forget. But anyway, I thought that was huge, because then that forced Emily B to be on that other tribe, sort of in the minority, which was really unfortunate. I was trying to think of like how they could have better done it, but I don't know. I don't know if there really was another way.
Because that's the problem, is you can't really take all 3, because then what if like your other person doesn't win,
right?
And then it's your whole tribe without immunity and one person from the other tribe with immunity. Like, you can't do that. You have to be conscious of idols and all that stuff. So honestly, I think it went about as well as it could go for the Sabu. Like, obviously I'm sure Emily B disagrees, that she probably thinks it could have gone better, but I think as far as from the Sabu perspective, they did it about as well as they could. And obviously, I mean, for Dylan, Cassidy, Brady, this was a good week for the 3 of them.
It really was, because one of them could have been easily taken out. Like, had Austin won the challenge and been able to pick the tribe first,
yes,
he could have went to the other side and then teamed up with Sarah. I don't know why I keep saying Sarah. With Emily, so many Sarahs and Emilys.
Yeah.
He could have teamed up with Emily and Aaron, and then voted
Mhm.
out either some combination of Dylan. I guess it would have been
Yeah,
Dylan or
well, and then
Cassie at that
yeah,
point.
exactly. It would have been Dylan or Cassie at that point, and then they would have left Brady over there with um, Emily P, and she would have been just as screwed as she was in the original timeline.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's the thing. Right. It one of the two Emilys could have been saved, but I don't think both could have in any others.
Absolutely.
But
So definitely an interesting week.
hmm
This week, lots of tears this week.
I'll be honest, I was tearing up.
It was
It
very
was crazy.
emotional.
And then
This
the
season really has
intro,
everything.
it really does. It's been so unpredictable and so, a lot of big characters
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of moments that are just like you could never even think up in any scenario. So yeah, it was wild. It was really wild.
I agree. Like you were getting ready to say the intro music this week.
hmm
It was very like CW teen drama. Like I was very like, man,
Yeah,
this is gonna be emotional.
exactly. And it definitely was. And I think we've mentioned this before, or I'm sure people have talked about it, but just like specifically with like the text messages and stuff, like with College Survivor, that's just an added layer where you have chats
Mm-hmm.
and you have texts and you have emails and stuff. And, it's something that we don't see in,
Mm-hmm.
TV Survivor or Big Brother, or any of that stuff. So it is really interesting to think about. And I'm sure, especially at the beginning of the game and even probably further, like you probably get so used to it
Mm-hmm.
that you don't even think like, oh, this could maybe get used against me later on. You know what I mean? Because it's just like that's
Yes.
how it's not like texting, emailing is like a new thing. Obviously, we do this every day in our everyday life. So I'm sure once the game got started, it was just kind of like, no one probably thought any of that stuff was going to come back later in the game. But they didn't know that they were playing with Ben, and
Yes.
he was going to plan on doing that. So very, very intense. Um, just, I mean, kind of seeing Aaron's reaction to it was like gut
Yeah.
wrenching. And, obviously, I'm sure no one condones any sort of like, you know, negative
Mm-hmm.
comments against people, clearly.
Yeah.
Um, so just
Well,
a tough situation, just a
it's
tough
kind of this
situation.
ongoing conversation you and I have been having off the air of like, because you and I are, we're a little bit closer to Will's age than we are to the undergrad's age. We'll put it that
hmm
way. That's the nice way
hmm
to say it. But it's like
Yeah.
you and I have been having this ongoing conversation, not just this season, but in seasons past about like, man, like if somebody had followed me around during undergrad for 100 days with a camera, they probably would have caught some pretty unfortunate moments too.
Absolutely, right. And I think what's different about this is A, they're playing a game, and B, it's recorded on YouTube.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah, so I totally agree with that. And, obviously this happened a couple years ago, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like listening to, Sam, Jack, and Sarah, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, and getting insight from the players now, I feel like it seems like everyone has, either grown from any mistakes that they've made. And it sounds like a lot of people are, especially in the community, are still really close. So it's like
Yes.
good to hear that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll be interested to hear, um, as more players get voted out, kind of their takes on everything. But yeah, I think, it's just an unfortunate situation in this realm of, it being a game. And yeah, it definitely added a big sort of, kind of gut punch to a couple people. So,
Yeah, definitely a high emotional situation.
hmm
Definitely sort of high drama this week. But man, this season has just been a mile a minute. Really,
absolutely.
like no real dud episodes that stand out to me. I think everything has so many great characters. Everybody playing this season is so interesting, so unique. So overall, this episode was a really different tone from the rest of them, but it just continues this incredible roller coaster ride that has been Based and Confused.
Mm-hmm. Again, I know we've said this before. It makes our jobs harder with the power rankings because I feel like I was looking back at our last couple, and there's people that have been voted out, and there's new
Yeah.
people on my list that weren't there before, and it's like I like that it's not super clear cut, even now at
Hmm.
the final eight. But yeah, I'm interested in kind of hearing your thoughts on that. So do you want to jump in to our rankings?
Absolutely. You want to start at 1 or you want to start at 8?
Let's start from the bottom.
Okay. All right. Now this is tough because there are a couple people at this point that I feel like are kind of drawing dead.
Yes.
That I feel like there's not really a chance they can win at this point. Um, so it was kind of tough to navigate the bottom. But at number 8, I am actually going to say Cassie.
Mm, I have her in that spot as well.
Okay,
Yeah, I
good.
think
I didn't know if that would be controversial or not.
I don't think so. I think it's probably, and it's no like fault to her.
Not
I
at
just
all.
feel like she's definitely been sort of under edited a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I even kind of just thought, like, I know that maybe this is a little controversial, just like kind of like with the purple edit. I think she
Mm-hmm.
was even wearing a purple shirt in this last
Yes.
episode. So I think maybe that's why it popped into my mind. But I feel like, um, yeah, it's just unfortunate. Like, we don't see a lot of strategy from her. I feel like she's just a
Mm-hmm.
number at this point. I feel like she would really have to like turn it up and make big moves and idle someone out and backstab like Dylan and Brady or something to like make it to the
Mm-hmm.
finals to really have a chance to win. I don't know if I see that happening.
I agree.
So yeah, I had her
I
in
think
my number
part of
eight
it is
spot.
just she's the last freshman standing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is probably her very first semester in Ann Arbor. And then to be a part of something like this, I mean, it's just sort of a difficult spot. And she happens to be playing with two of like the two biggest bro dudes left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just sort of puts her in this spot where at 8, it might be too late for her to really turn on the afterburners.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and especially with again, and it's really interesting that this came up at that double tribal, the Rock tribal, where you know if she were to make it to the end, there's going to be a lot of savu savu on the
Yeah.
jury. So it would be interesting to see if their thoughts on kind of how all that happened still carried over to their final vote. So I think she would just have a really uphill battle. Um, you know,
Yeah.
being in the end against the jury. So
I totally
yeah.
agree. Alrighty. Who do you have at 7?
So I feel like I could maybe interchange these, but I'm just gonna go with how I wrote it. So, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't like that this person is in number 7, but I feel like it's just what it is at this point. But I have Will.
Mm-hmm. I also have Will. We did not discuss
Okay,
this off the air, by the way.
that's
This
so
is
funny.
totally off the cuff and hilarious.
I
I
think this
also
is
have
why
Will
we
at
were
7.
hired because we're like weirdly on the same page, but it like
It's
totally
all
works.
coming together
Mm-hmm.
now. All right, so why Will at 7? Even though I agree, I'm asking the question in the theoretical way,
Right,
so I
right.
totally agreed with you.
So again, and I remember way back when, I think he was when him and Ben, I think maybe in our first episode, they were in our
Mm-hmm.
in our in our top listing. But I think just, obviously with everything that happened this week with the email situation, um, and then just the will paranoia that's been happening. I don't know. I don't know. It's almost like I can't even answer it myself, but I just know that again, I feel like he would just have a really tough um he'd have it tough in the finals to try to
Mm-hmm.
not explain his game, but I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You probably
No,
what are
I
your
totally hear
thoughts?
what you're saying. I totally agree. I think Will at this point is the in-game villain. And so I think that not only do I think he probably can't get the jury votes even if he gets there. I think that it's sometimes in Survivor or Big Brother or these games you get this person who's like this big villainous character that everybody
Mm.
is just excited to vote out, whether it's even necessarily
Yeah.
good for their game or not. Like sometimes people just really rally around the idea of like, oh, I'm just so excited to vote out. It's sort of like the like Brad Culpepper in Blood versus Water.
Mm.
Like where they're just like the idea of voting him out just feels so good, even though it might not be the best strategic decision and probably wasn't for those guys. It's
Right.
just like the idea of voting him out is just so good. And
Yeah,
so
I
I
agree with
think
that.
in a lot of ways Will is there. He's just is in that sort of like, and he loses Emily this week. So I'm not
Hmm.
even really sure how he gets there. But even if he
Right.
does, it's like, yeah, you probably can't. I mean, Emily probably votes for you,
Hmm.
and that's probably the end of the list.
Yeah, that right. I think, he won the battle with getting Ben out before him.
Yes.
That I don't even know if that really helped his game at all. Like maybe it would have been better to do something different. I
I mean,
think
it's sort of like the Reed and Jeremy thing, right? In San Juan del Sur, it's sort of like once you slay your dragon, you become the dragon,
right.
and I think
Exactly.
that's what happened here. So yeah,
Yeah.
Will at 7 is unfortunate because I like him. I think he's an interesting player. I think he's got brings a lot to the table, but I don't see how he wins it.
Yeah, and his confessionals have been great. I feel like we've gotten a ton of Will content, especially in the last couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
With him and
Yeah.
Ben, reading their messages to each other, which was so funny.
Oh man.
It's definitely been a huge storyline, so it'll be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to see like what he does now with his like closest ally is gone, and the person that he was sort of at war with is gone. So it's kind of like what is his move now? Like he
Yeah.
was just so gung ho of just like getting out Ben. Okay, you've done that, but now, like, what do now
Exactly. Now what?
next?
And who
You
knows?
know?
Maybe he can pivot. Maybe he
Yeah.
can work his way in with the Sabu Sabus or with the Tafidis, and
Hmm.
maybe.
Right. It might be best for him to just kind of like lay low and just be
Yeah.
a number. Like I feel like that's probably
But
the best
I
thing he
feel
could
like
try to do at this
once
point.
you like, I feel like for somebody like Will, it's like how low can he really lay?
Mm,
You know,
that's true.
does
Yeah.
he have that
Yeah.
gear?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So okay.
Alrighty. So for number 6, I had Devin.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Who did you
I
have at 6?
So again, I don't like that this person is here, but
Oh, okay. I have Austin at 5.
okay. So I Austin had to go a little bit lower this time because I feel like the way that he played it in this past episode, where like it's so crazy. He's been such a Sabu Sabu
Mm-hmm.
strong, like literally the whole season, but then to
Mm-hmm.
waver on this vote, with voting out Devin or Emily. Now
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Like obviously, personal relationships come into play. Like I totally understand that, but I think with him kind of revealing that he was so torn,
Mm-hmm.
in front of Eliza, Devin, and Emily B, I think it would just be really tough. It's going to be tough for them to trust him, and then so I feel like his battle to get to the end now is going to be even harder than it was before this episode.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think he did not have a great week. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he is self-aware in the fact that he said like I'm the most emotional player in the game. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
really owned that, and I think until now it's worked for him. Like I think it's kind of been like a charming thing about him, and I think it's endeared people towards him until this week, where now it was like really like just this didn't have to be this hard. And I
Yeah.
think especially if you're Eliza or Aliza and Devin, you're like, what are we doing here? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna vote off a Sabu Sabu, really? Are you? Like the agonizing over it, I think was difficult for them. But the reason I had Austin higher than Devin is I think Austin's path to get there is much harder this week than it was. but I still think if he gets there, even if he gets there with Devin, I think he still gets more votes than Devin. And that's why I put
Mm,
him at 5 and Devin at 6.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's interesting.
But it's,
It's
go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say. I mean, I feel like we've been seeing a little bit more of Devin,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like even with losing Emily B, like Eliza is still the bigger target of the
Definitely.
Sabu Sabu, and also with Austin kind of, um, revealing his cards a little bit about wavering. I feel like he would be like Eliza would maybe target Austin now before Devin, just based
Mm-hmm.
on loyalty. So that's why I put Devin a step above Austin for that reason. And I feel like, Devin also has this sort of side working relationship with Dylan going on
Mm-hmm.
now, which could definitely help him.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're seeing more of his game and more of his like individual game, because I feel like we weren't seeing too much of him in the beginning. So
Yeah, Devin has
that's why.
definitely emerged. Like
Yeah.
he's definitely has kind of come from this place of being like a little bit purple, like a little bit, okay, what is Devin
Hmm.
thinking? Because even a lot of the confessionals we did get from him were pretty generic, like, oh
Yeah.
man, like I don't like who's gonna go home this week kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But I agree. I think the thing with Dylan is good. I think having the Sabu Sabu strong, especially at this point, is still good. I don't know
Hmm.
that he's anybody's target. I just it's hard for me to imagine two people he gets there with that he can beat.
Right. It would have to be like Cassie and
Because I think the best
eh,
case scenario for him is probably the Devin Austin Cassie thing. And A, I
yeah.
don't know how those three people get there. A, but
Right.
B, even in that scenario, it's that Austin Devin thing of who has more votes right now. I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
I
That's
genuinely I would tend to lean towards Austin, but I could
hmm
be talked into the fact that it's Devin. And so it's interesting.
yes, I agree.
Okay, so you had Devin at 5, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we covered Austin and Devin at 5 or 6, depending
Hmm.
on I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
I
Yeah. Who's your number 4?
I was gonna say I sort of did the same thing with 4 and 3, where I was kind of back and forth on 4 and 3. I put Aaron in 4,
Okay, I put her in 3,
and
but
you
I have
had
her interchanged with 4 as well.
okay. Who do you have in 3?
Well, I had Erin in 3,
Mm-hmm.
but she could have been interchanged with Brady.
I had Brady in 3 and Aaron in 4.
Okay.
So
Okay.
perfect. Okay,
Awesome.
so
So let's talk about Brady first.
yes.
So I feel like, okay, he's had a lot of social connections. I think he's been a really
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, we've heard now all three. Well, I don't know if Ben said anything about it, but we've at least heard both of the Emilys say that they're voting for Brady.
Yes.
If he makes it to the end, and I think even Eliza said it during their meeting. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if she was just saying that to kind of beef him up to make him a bit more of a target, but she was like, yo, if he gets to the final 3, like he's got my vote.
Well, you have to
So
assume Ben is voting for Brady over any of these people if he gets to the
yeah,
end, right?
right, yes, and I think that's why they were kind of alluding to the fact that all 3 of them, he now has 3 jury votes. So
Yeah.
that's huge. So it's really going to be interesting because I feel like we see this sometimes with sort of like superlative challenges
Mm-hmm.
where somebody gets, this person is the biggest threat or this person will win
Yeah.
if they get to the end or whatever. So I feel like Brady's been given these superlatives just in general. So it's going to be interesting to see like if that like are people gonna look into that and then try to make a move against him. I mean, obviously Sabu Sabu was trying to get him out,
Mm-hmm.
instead of Ben, so he's definitely on the radar as a target. But I feel like he's obviously, and even Dylan and Cassie have sort of talked about possibly getting him out. So it's really going to be interesting to see what he does. I mean, he could go on like an immunity run. You really never know. But I think depending on who he gets to the end too, I think he still has a really good shot.
I agree. And this is sort of where I was in this catch 22 between him and Aaron is if Brady gets there, he wins.
Hmm.
I think there's no doubt about that. And so the only question for Brady is, can he get there? He has not been that great in challenges so far in the
Hmm.
individual portion of the game. He won this week's immunity, but it only sort of counts. He beat
Right, right.
Austin, really. It was just him and Austin, which, by the way, Austin's still a challenge beast.
I
I'm
know. That's great.
I would like to say for the record that I am, even though it was the exact same thing, I am not counting Brady's challenge win, and I am counting Austin's challenge win. Even though it was the same thing, I know that's hypocritical. I don't care. Brady's challenge win means nothing. Austin's challenge win means he continues to be the challenge beast of the season. And if anyone doesn't like that, you can get your own podcast. But no, I do think Brady is in an interesting spot simply because I think he and Eliza are the same level of threat, and I think they are
Hmm.
each in the same position of they each have three people, and then Aaron and Will are in the middle, but probably don't want to work together. Like, I
Yeah,
can't imagine like Aaron
absolutely.
and Will being like, okay,
N-
let's get together and swing this game. Like, that's not
Oh yeah,
happening at this
no,
point in the game at all.
absolutely
So it
not.
almost feels like we're heading back into 4v4 territory
Mm.
with the Tafidis and the Sabu Sabus again. Like we're about to go back to the future, and go back that way. And I think in that situation, um, Brady for me has just a little bit more clout with everybody that
Yeah.
I think he is in a better situation. But I agree, it's a tough road to hoe. I don't know that he can make it all the way to the finals.
Hmm.
Um, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
So that 4-3 interchangeable spot is fine with me.
Perfect. So then we have Erin.
Yes.
I feel like she's just had such an interesting ride this entire season.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like obviously she started out kind of rough. I feel like she's a super loyal person, and she like
Yes.
wants to be loyal and wants to just like have a person, and that just keeps not working out for her. And it's like, she thought she had Emily, not fully as we've
Yeah.
seen. And then
Mm-hmm.
she kind of gets this connection with Brady, but then Brady tells Dylan and Cassie about her idol, which I will say, if you find an idol, don't tell anyone.
Don't tell
Like,
anyone.
you can't. Literally, the whole cast knows. So it's like, um, so I don't know. I feel like if she got to the end, I feel like her story would be really like good winner story. Like
Absolutely.
look, I came into this game, I wanted to trust people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be loyal. This and that. Like, her name has come up. She got like 3 votes at that one tribal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like I have her higher than maybe I would have, just because I feel like her story would be a really interesting like winner story of just what she's had to go through to get to the end, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. I think Erin has a great story. I think she has
Hmm.
really emerged as one of just the most interesting characters this season because of exactly what you said. You were so spot on. Of she has wanted to be a loyal soldier. Like she has
Hmm.
wanted, and yet it's just eluded her for whatever reason. People have just not really ever included her in any kind of like long-term real way, and
Hmm.
yet she's still here. And
Yeah.
she's in a point in the game now where her vote is so valuable, like we were just
Right.
talking about,
Right.
where it's like if she could just figure out where to lock in and finally get that, I can easily see how she can get to the end. And again, if it's her in the end with Devin and Austin instead of Cassie, I mean, why not? What a
Hmm.
great story she'd have. I think that's a good spot for her is with Austin, somebody else who is like an emotional player, who is a loyal guy,
Hmm.
and I think if she that's I think is my best case scenario for Aaron is linking up with Austin and one other person, whether it's Devin or Cassie or whatever combination of whoever, and figuring out a way to make it to the end. I think she's got an interesting story, but I think more than anything, I think the reason I put her 4 instead of 3, I just don't know what her move is.
Yeah, right. It would have to be just. She might have to just sort of like flip back and forth between alliances, even.
Yeah.
And make sure, almost like a Sandra. She has to
Yeah,
play like
totally.
Sandra. Like, literally, any name that's not me, I will vote
That's a great
for.
reference because it's true.
Because right there, I don't know what else she can do at this point, and she has the idol, but everyone knows about it. So I feel like, you know, yeah, I don't even like. I don't know if they're going to try to like blindside her to get rid of that, or they could even just be like, you know what, let's just bring her to the Final Four. Like, she might even be underestimated, and they'll be like, you know what, you can have your idol play it at 5, whatever.
I definitely think she's underestimated, 100%.
And I
think what you're. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, like, there's still a lot of big names.
Yes.
And I'm not taking away from her game in that sense, but I just feel like, you know, with the Brady, with even Will, Aliza, like, I don't know. It's almost like, what would voting her out benefit anyone, really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, she is in a very interesting spot of like, yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens with the rest of her game, for sure.
My only concern is, it's like you said, the Sandra game would be perfect for her. Does she have that in her? She's been trying so hard to play the loyal person game the whole time. It's almost like Lisa Whelchel in the Philippines. Like, she's laughed, she's cried, she's had her secret revealed to the tribe. She's wanted to play this. Where is her? Does Aaron have a brother that can come into the game? Does she have a brother named Justice that can come into the game and be like, Aaron, it's time to play Survivor. You came here to win.
Right.
If we get the family visit this week, Aaron's winning the game.
Yeah.
If
I
Final
like that.
8 is the Survivor Michigan family visit, Aaron wins the whole game. You heard it here first. All right, so that leaves us with a top 2.
Yes. So I have Aliza in my number 2 spot.
And I have Dylan in my number 2 spot.
Okay,
so
like
we went back and forth on that one too.
Yeah.
But I will say it's very tough because I actually do think Dylan is in the best spot in the game. But I didn't put him in my number 1 spot because I think Aliza is the best player left in the game.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And so even though I actually think Dylan's position in the game is much better, I flipped it the other way because I went with talent or perceived skill over position in the game. But we can hash that out.
Yeah, I think what I did looking at it was like, because the season has been so insane, I think I've with my like 1, 2, my 3, 4, and like my 5, 6, I put the person, like the bigger name, I put as the second.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And I went the exact opposite way, which totally explains how we got here.
Right. So I'm like, oh, maybe, like, yes, I would love to put Aliza in number 1, but I'm like, I feel like the way that the season is going, like maybe a Dylan would get further than her. So I think that was where my mentality was. But let's talk about Dylan first.
Yes.
I think he's played a great, like, under the radar game. He's been out of all of the drama. Like, does he have any enemies? I don't think so.
No.
And I think, you know, obviously we get his really funny confessional clips still in the, you know, that was something we said, I think, in our first episode, was like, we hope Dylan is around the entire way because we just want his little confessional, you know, sound clip throughout the season.
Yes.
But, you know, he has Cassie as a number. I guess him and Brady's alliance is still kind of solid, maybe a little shaky just with some stuff this week, but
yeah, I think, you know, Brady needs him, which I think is good.
Right. I don't know. We've been seeing a little bit more from him in confessionals and kind of what his strategy has been. I loved his strategy of he's like, yeah, when I meet with someone, like we don't talk about game
Mm-hmm.
like right away. Like we just connect like on a human level first and then get into the game. So I think he's playing a really strong game, and his name maybe came up like in one episode that I can think of
Yeah.
as like a maybe. But I don't know. I could see again if he kind of plays if he continues his under the radar game and just make sure up bigger names are in front of him for the next couple rounds, I think he could easily make it to the end for sure.
Yes. I agree. One of the things that I've always said about Survivor that I hold true to that I don't think a lot of people talk about is generally the person who wins in the end is the person who people feel the best about voting for.
Mm.
Whether they played the best game or they didn't, whether they were the best strategist or whatever, I think at the end of the day, almost every season of Survivor, the winner is the person who the jury said, I feel the best about giving this person the win.
Yeah.
And I think Dylan is really a great example of that. He so reminds me of, how like every high school has that guy that like everybody likes.
Mm-hmm.
That like whether he, it's not even like a popularity thing. It's just like everybody's cool with him no matter what like clique or whatever you fall into.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think Dylan is that guy. Like
Mm-hmm.
he gives me that vibe of like I think everybody in the game likes Dylan. I haven't really heard anybody say a bad word about him. I
Right.
haven't heard anybody target him. I think he's probably like cracking jokes at challenges, like cutting up, like like you said, he's probably super fun to have like strategy meetings with and talks because he's not all game body.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many
Yeah.
people in this game who are like, let's talk about the game, let's talk about the game. That I think if you like were like called up Dylan's like, hey, like let's go, to Panera, and then like he sits down and he's like, man, did you watch the football game last Saturday or did you see that? Like do. You would feel so good about hanging out with him.
Right. Because
And I think
it's more genuine too.
oh
Because
totally.
if you meet up with someone and you just jump right into the strategy, like obviously what's good about obviously in other games, shorter games,
Yeah.
you got to just talk strategy because you might not have a lot
Yeah.
of time. But College Survivor is nice because there's so much time. So it's like, you're already spending. I mean, how many days into the game are they at this point?
My gosh.
A couple months.
There's
Wasn't
like
it like day 60 something?
day 67,
Yeah.
66 and 67, and there's still 8 people left in the game.
Right. So it's like obviously everyone's been meeting up a ton, talking strategy. I'm sure it's taken over their life. So yeah, to have someone like that who when you meet with, it's just kind of like, oh, we're having just like a regular conversation about life. Like this is so refreshing. So I think he's really hit the nail on the head with that strategy. And yeah, I mean, I hope we see a little bit more from him, but not in a way to make him a bigger target in the next couple episodes.
Yeah.
Because I could see him being.
I think if he is able to get there without Eliza or Brady,
Mm-hmm.
I think he wins.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that's his win condition.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for him too, like as crazy as the season has been, drama, fights, all this stuff, like he would be the one to kind of like emerge out of the ashes of all that stuff. Like unscathed because like I said, I don't think he has any enemies. I don't think he's done anything, controversial or, to make anyone mad or anything like that. So I think it would be an interesting like cap to the season of like Dylan, boom,
Yeah, I mean, I think when one of the earlier episodes we compared him to Fabio from Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's like he's like an intentional version of that.
Yes,
like he's sort of doing that like laid back, I'm the cool person game, except he's doing it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same thing as the Nicaragua thing, where if he gets there to the end with even somebody like a Will who's played a super strategic game, he's like, man, I just hung out with you guys and we went to Cottage Inn and like we hung out and remember that night when I saw you out at Rick's? Yeah. And I think he wins the game that way. I genuinely do. And especially if he's looking to go to the end with Cassie, who is somebody that I don't think can get a winning amount of jury votes.
Yeah.
And he's got that relationship with Devin, who is somebody else we said we don't think can get a lot of jury votes. I mean, if it's Dylan, Cassie, and Devin in the end, I mean, I don't think we're not only looking at a win. I think we're looking at a decisive win.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Yeah.
Devin might get a couple votes from Sabu Sabu, but
Yeah, I
it
think
won't be enough
he
to.
might even maybe get the 3 Sabu Sabu votes.
Yeah.
He probably gets Eliza's vote if she's not there, but even then, Austin's a Survivor fan. He's going to want to vote for the best player.
Right.
And yeah. So
Yeah.
that leaves us with our number 1.
Eliza. And I feel like
your number 2, my number 1.
Yeah, I mean,
our number 1-ish.
Right. 1.5 if we
1.5.
average them together.
Exactly.
I feel like we can say a lot of the same things about her as well with
Yeah.
Dylan, as far as like she's been out of the drama. I feel like she's been really positive, really, again, she doesn't have any enemies, or I don't think she's done anything.
Yep.
Like that. So, and I think her social game has been great. I feel like she's been sort of, kind of the leader of the Sabu Sabus in a way.
Yes.
Just like probably the more powerful player of
Yes.
the 4. She had that connection with Will, which I'm assuming I'll be interested to see if anything happens with that any longer going forward. I mean, I guess maybe she could use him as a number, because I mean, I don't think he's going to go work with the other side.
Exactly.
But, so I think she's good there. Again, she's a bigger player, so she has a bigger target than some of the people left. But I mean, if she made it to the end, I mean, unless it was with Brady and Dylan, but I don't know. I mean, a Sabu.
I actually don't think it matters.
Yeah, like the final 9 was made up of 4 Sabu Sabu members, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And now we're at the final 8, and there's 3 still left. So it's like, yeah, if she makes it to the end, especially as the sole Sabu Sabu member, I think she's got it, hands down.
I don't think there's a scenario at this stage in the game where she can lose in the final tribal. Because
Mm-hmm.
if she makes it with Austin and Devin, she wins.
Mm-hmm.
And if Austin and Devin are on the jury, that's 3 locked-in jury votes out of 8.
Right.
She only needs to win 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
If Will's on the jury, he's voting for her. And so that's it. That's a guaranteed 4.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think she's locked into 4 jury votes at this point. No matter, even in her worst case scenario, like you said, where she's there with Brady and Dylan, which I think is the worst case scenario. I think she has 4 locked-in jury votes in her worst case scenario.
Yeah, I agree.
And then all she has to do is win Aaron.
Yep. I totally agree.
Or hope that Dylan and Brady split a vote. I don't think she loses at this point in a final tribal council scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Then the question is, it's the Sarah Z question. Like, how does she get there?
Right.
Like, Sarah came so close to pulling it off last season.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
But and Eliza, I have been doing that for 3 episodes now. Eliza is on that caliber of player, I think, with Sarah, with these really, really great players. But it's like, once Brady goes, how does she get there?
Right. Because I feel like she would get targeted before like Austin and Devin, just of the Sabu
way
Sabus.
Before.
Yeah.
And I think, because I also feel like everybody in the game is pretty, like, they know who they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So it leaves us, but I mean, but like I said at the top, I think she is the best player in the game at this point.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think if anybody can, if it's doable, she will figure out a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The question is it doable?
Right.
Can anybody do it? And I think that's what's going to be super exciting in the next couple episodes to watch this end game start to develop, because she's in a spot where, like we talked about with Sarah last season, once Sam goes and once Jack goes, all of a sudden you're looking around and going, oh boy, I'm here by myself. And it's the same thing for Eliza. Once Brady goes and once Will goes, it's you.
Right.
So she's got to hold off on that trigger, I think, is her best move. I think she has to keep at least Brady around 1 more week.
Mm-hmm. That's totally fair. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be, I'm like just looking at the names. I'm like trying to draw little like connections and um
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean if they it's interesting, like I mean we've seen Erin meet with Austin a couple of times, but I don't know
Yeah.
if have we seen her with, I think her and Eliza met once. I remember Eliza having
Mm-hmm.
a confessional about that. So it'll be interesting to see what Sabu does as a whole. Like, can
Yes.
Austin recover from wavering between Emily and Devin? And then
Yeah.
they could maybe pull in Erin um, as like a fourth
I think that's the best spot
with
for Aaron
with
with them,
Will,
honestly.
and then they could easily take out Brady and then break up Dylan and Cassie and kind of go from there. And we know that there's tension between like Will and Austin, so like I feel like yeah, Elise would have to take out like one big player and then just make sure she has people around her that are in conflict, and then
It
just
can't, yeah, that's the thing.
hope that they kind of were like, okay, I'd rather get rid of this person and just kind of oversee the fact that she's such a huge target.
Because she
So
knows that Aaron and Will probably never work together again.
right,
And so if she can keep both of them in the game,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, if she can keep both of them and Brady in the game, I think that's the move.
mm-hmm.
Is to figure out a way to make it Dylan this week.
Yeah,
But will that happen? I don't know.
right. Who
Because
knows?
Brady is just at this point he is such like a big target.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited.
I
I'm
am
so
too.
excited for where this game is right now.
Yeah, I like that it's just been so chaotic and up in the air and
Yes.
not straightforward at all. It's making it really, really interesting for sure.
This is really um it's such a different vibe than the last 2 years of Survivor Michigan
Mm-hmm.
because it really does just feel chaotic.
Yes.
Like what is going on, but in a good way. Like
Yeah,
Mazed and Confused, it's like a prophetic name for this season because
absolutely.
it's so like I come away every week mazed and
Right,
confused.
right. Me too. I'm just like, what did I just watch? I believe
Yes,
this person went home.
I'm still not over the rock draw, and it was like a month and a half
I
ago.
know, I know. Uh,
Alrighty.
all right. Well, we got our rankings.
Yes.
So we thought we'd do a little, just like a little fun thing. So we thought that we would basically pick some other college survivor players that are not in Michigan and pair them with one of the Survivor Michigan seasons to kind of see how they would do or see what they could bring to the table. So I came up with three. Did you as well?
I also came up with three. That is
Okay.
correct.
Do you want me to go first?
I do want you to go first.
Okay. Let's see.
Should we start with season one?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Did you pick one for each season?
I did.
Okay,
Did
I
you?
did the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, good. All right, we're on the
And
same page.
we didn't even discuss that, but
Good.
I wanted it to be symmetrical. So I was like, you know what? Because at first I was gonna pair and then try to pair them with a season. Well, I kind of did that, but I was like, once I had two, I was like, well, I might as well pick one for each season. So okay, so season one. So I actually picked Autumn from Time and Change season 2.
Oh, okay, yes.
I was a big fan of hers. I feel like she just fits the mold of season 1. And I don't know if I'll be able to fully explain that in words, but I feel season 1 of Michigan, I feel like there was a lot of just like athletic and social players. Does that make sense? Do you get that same vibe?
It totally makes sense. And when you hear who my pick is, you're gonna understand that I know where you're coming from.
Okay, good. Oh, I'm excited. So yeah, I really liked Autumn. I think she had a great social game. She was good at the challenges. I thought what was interesting too is like she had a secret friendship with someone in the game that no one knew about till the end. Basically similarly to the Alex's. So I thought it would be interesting, if maybe she would be able to sniff that out. I don't know. I feel like she would, for me, just fit into season 1 so perfectly with how she played in Time and Change season 2. So that was my pick for season 1.
Well, you know how season 1 was filled with athletic people and strategic and social players and whatever you said? Yeah. I thought the exact same thing. and it's hilarious how very close we were because I picked Vinny from Survivor Titan Change Season 1.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. He was someone I was thinking about too. That is so weird. Okay.
Because Survivor Michigan 1 has so many great characters
Mm-hmm.
and so many people I would want to see play again because they're smart, they're athletic, they're strategic, they're great in confessionals, and they're just people who I loved to watch play Survivor. That's what made Survivor Michigan 1 so great.
Yes.
And Vinny to me is one of those guys that even though Time and Change 1 was years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
I still look back and think, man, I would love to see him play again. I would love to see him involved in the Survivor community again in some way because he was so good, such an interesting kind of thought out of the box on a lot of occasions, tried some stuff that didn't work,
Mm-hmm.
tried some stuff that did work. Just such a really great character that I felt when I think of Survivor Michigan 1, I think of great characters,
Mm-hmm.
interesting strategy, outside the
Yes.
box, unique play, and that he just, to me, he totally fit that bill.
I totally agree. I think that's a really good pick. I could see him working with like Matthew on super
Oh my gosh.
strategy or Brittany and yeah,
So fun.
that's a really good pick. That's so funny. I had him in mind as well. So that's really funny.
Exciting.
Okay.
All right, season 2. Who were you thinking of for the great Survivor Michigan season 2?
So I went a little off the wall here. Um,
Yes.
I went with actually Tony from Maryland New Beginnings.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is off the wall, but tell me more.
Yeah, so I was thinking he was a great character. Now, his strategy could have been a little bit better, but
Sure.
obviously the one thing I remember most about him was that crazy tribal where
Yes.
I think most of the cast had come a little bit intoxicated to say the least.
Yes.
And he was like being propped up like he wasn't even, I don't know. It was just wild. So I could just see him and Maggie
Oh
becoming
man.
this like force. We probably, I mean, content in and of itself is always great. But I feel like if they had gotten on the same tribe together or gotten swapped together, like, could you imagine both of them just out partying, both of them doing
Yes.
karaoke? Like, I think I was just thinking about, I think maybe I really just wanted more Maggie content. So I was like, well, who could I bring
Sure,
into
of
this
course.
season that we could get more of that from? So I feel like them getting together and just partying and going wild, I think we would have gotten even more great Maggie and Tony moments had he been on that season. Now, strategy wise, I don't know. I don't know how he would have done. I feel like obviously on the flip side of that, season 2 had a lot of great strategic players, so it would have been interesting to see him navigate that. But I think him and Maggie would have been a really fun duo.
Yes. I agree. I am sort of we thought semi similarly on this one because I
Okay.
thought season 2 makes me think of two things.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the one thing we have in common is badass women.
Yes.
So you have Maggie, you have Sarah, you have Mallory, you have just these awesome women who we loved, we would love to see play again. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, we can't think of Survivor Michigan season 2 without thinking of the beloved trio, the Keep Your Torch Lit
Yes.
3,
Yep.
Sam, Jack, and Sarah, who of course we love. And so I thought when I think of College Survivor, badass women, and trios, the
Yes.
only person I can think of is Shannon from
Yeah.
Survivor Guts and Glory.
This is so funny. So, just as a sidebar, I was like, obviously, Paul and I talk about what, our little special rankings or whatever we're calling this. So, the other idea I was going to have was if we could swap alliances into seasons.
Oh, perfect.
So,
yes.
when I was thinking of season 2, I was like, wouldn't it be cool to see Evan, Micah, and Shannon in place of Sarah, Jack, and Sam? So, I love that you went this route because I was definitely thinking about this. So, once again, I think this is why we're doing this because
I think this
so
is how
funny that we're on the same page in some of this stuff.
This is how we got recruited. It's true. But no, Shannon is so great. And she's like, she's a tough girl. She's strong. She's great in confessionals. She's strategic. She's, as we saw in All Stars, she's super clever.
Yes.
She can play from the bottom or from the top. And I just think that in a season like Michigan 2, where everything was good, there was a lot of topsy-turviness. We saw a lot of these strong women emerge. I think Shannon would just have been such a great addition to that cast. Can you imagine Shannon, like you said, Shannon and Maggie, Shannon
Yeah.
and Sarah, Shannon and Sam and Jack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, Shannon and Nick. Oh my
Right.
gosh. I mean,
Yes.
I think she just would have been such a great force to add
Mm-hmm.
to that already strong cast.
Yeah, I
So,
totally agree.
yes, we
I love
were
that.
we were on at least half of the same page there with that one.
That's so funny. Okay, good. Okay, then season three, Mazed and
Yes.
Confused. So I actually went. Okay, so I figured this the season has drama, like
Yes.
confessionals that have just been wild. So I went a little bit off the wall again,
Mm-hmm.
but I went with Survivor Yukon, season
Mm-hmm.
one, the great confessional queen, Catherine.
Yes, I love her.
First, her confessionals were nothing like I've ever seen in her season. I just love
Oh my
how
gosh.
honest and just I think it's just the way she thinks about the game and talks about it was just like mind blowing. But I feel like she was so unfiltered. I mean, I feel like this season, if we had like a F word count, I don't know, we might be up in the 30s or 40s at this point. But
Yes.
so I would love to see her take on this season playing it and her confessionals. And what I also loved about her in Yukon is she always had comments and she would always rag on the host Ryan. So I
Oh
would
my
love to see
gosh.
that this season with Cooper because I would want to know how Cooper would handle Catherine, just kind of like
Yes.
every challenge, every tribal, just making some kind of comment to him would be really funny. And I want to see Catherine play again as well. So I think that's
A
why I would
100%.
love to see her in an alternate universe play Survivor Michigan season three.
Yes. Yeah, if for the listeners, if you haven't watched Survivor Yukon, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great season, a lot of really great characters. And Catherine is,
Yes.
I mean, like you said, Catherine talks in confessional the way I talk to my therapist. Like just this like stream of conscious
Yes.
honesty,
Yeah.
like unfiltered sort of way. It's like they forgot to tell her this was gonna air.
Right. Right. Which
Like,
also she probably didn't care anyway.
yeah,
I feel
which
like
is
she
what's
would be
so
like,
great
eh.
about her.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's so
Um,
funny. Okay, well, who do you got?
so when it comes to Survivor Michigan season three, all of these wild characters,
Mm-hmm.
crazy strategies, everybody's got an angle, everybody's confessionals are, I mean, off the wall. We have Dylan's crazy confessionals. You have Ben and Will and Cassie and Chloe giving all these confessionals. And I think there is only one man who is just a little bit ahead of his time who would have been perfectly mazed and confused, and that is Kevin from Survivor Michigan season 2, the Cavillain.
Wow. Okay.
If
Oh, I
there's
like that.
anything that could push this season over the edge of craziness, if it's not over the edge of craziness already, it's gotta be the Cavillain. He
The
was so
villain.
good. He had
Yeah.
all these crazy strategies. He was this dominant force on his tribe. He had these incredibly biting confessionals that
Mm-hmm.
did not match the tone of season 2 whatsoever. Um,
That's so true.
and what I think happened is the alternate universes got messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin was supposed to be here in
Yes.
season 3. He teleported 1 year too early in the DeLorean and ended up on season 2 where they just could not appreciate his genius.
Mm-hmm.
And here on, can you imagine having Will and Ben was enough? Could you imagine Will and Ben and Kevin
I
on
know.
the same season?
Right. I love that. I didn't even think to pull someone from a different season. So I love this. And yeah, you're right. He would have fit into this season perfectly. Right. Would it have been like a three-way war between him, Ben, and Will? Would he be battling someone else? Like, so
I
yeah, I
know.
love this.
I think he is such a person that I need to see play again. Like
Hmm.
he is on my short list of people that I want to see play again just because I have no idea how he'll do. He's not one of those people that I'm like, oh, if he gets a second chance, he'll win the game. He might
Right.
go out first. I don't know. but I demand to see it
Yeah,
because
I agree.
he's just such an interesting. And also seeing him in the background of all these episodes now,
Right,
it's like,
right.
like Kevin, you were supposed to be on the cast this season. It was just inches away from your fate. So I think that is my season 3 pick.
Oh, I like that. Oh, this turned out really fun.
Yes, this was a great idea.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Well, this was fun.
Yes.
Again, we have no idea what's going on.
No.
As we have previously stated, we have no idea who's going to win. These are all aimless shots in the dark.
Hmm.
So if we got anything correct, we will be extremely thrilled and we'll probably gloat about it because we have no idea what's happening.
I totally agree.
So thank you all for listening, for sticking with us, and we're excited to see you in the future. So with that, we're the Power Ranking Guys. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.